Hi all. It is a sleepy Monday for me. Kind of had too much of a celebration about some good life changes last night, so I am tired and a little cranky, but I think I really got a good tarot reading out of it anyway, so that's good because I've kind of haven't done one since the Gemini new moon, and we've been going through the Sagittarius full moon energies now. The way I've been working on them is even though like the moon changes like every 3 days or so, it changes signs. I feel like when the full and new moons come in, um, since there's such heavy intention setting times and big times of like intentional release as well, um, that just doesn't happen in 3 days. So that's I've started getting into a cycle now where I'm just kind of like really switching up my life themes every 2 weeks to kind of reflect what's going on. So even though I've kind of missed catching the Sagittarius full moon right when it was most powerful, this is clearly a reflection of those themes in a lot of ways. There's like divine sensuality and freedom as a main thing here, and sacrifice and visions, all in the mermaid cards, and that's all very, very Sagittarius. Sagittarian energy is like very yeah, it wants freedom and expansion. Yeah, divine sensuality. I wouldn't say it's like the most Sagittarian thing, but there's a kind of a passion in Sagittarius in that way. And same with sacrifice, I think kind of goes hand in hand with the freedoms. And visions is that expansiveness, that psychic, mutable, I think it's mutable thing, sign of, let's see, because Leo's fixed and yeah, it's mutable. So it's that weird, it's that I feel like they're almost like transient, kind of like transitional things are ending and wrapping up before a new fresh start. So it's just like it's expansive. It's kind of reached a different breathed. I can't say the right word. Oh my god, I can't even think of it right now. Here's the hangover. Anyway, it's just an expansive energy. I don't want to re-record this. I'm just gonna leave my speaking error in there and probably many more. Anyway, so I want to get into it. I will just talk about them as I show you the cards. Okay, so I pulled. I realized I haven't been explaining these enough. So this is recent past, this is current energy theme, and this is where we're going. I'm using kind of more mystic cards this time around. I'm not using as much of the Rider Waite. I really felt like to get into the Sagittarian energy, it'd be nice to really tap into something else. So we're coming out of a passionate rebirth, new inspiration, and just kind of like it's like a fire was lit within us, especially in the areas of the Ten of Swords. This is different imagery than usual, but it's our same old Ten of Swords that comes up all the time. In this case, instead of having all the swords in her back, this person is kind of like trust falling in a painful way. And so I think really what happened was like we were reconciling with our Ten of Swords, the betrayal, the self-betrayal especially, the reasons we abandon ourselves and our truth and stuff like that. And also the patterns to which we couldn't really get over the like needing to forgive ourselves or others, or really thinking we were going to manifest the same cycles over and over again. So something happened recently, in the recent past, where there was like kind of a light of inspiration, a fire was lit inside you, or the situation that really started a passionate new start, even in the face of this Ten of Swords energy, or actually even kind of like as an antidote to that. On a societal level, this is definitely like a reflection of the Black Lives Movement in a big way, because the Ten of Swords would be that cycle of like repeated betrayal and repression and pain, that has happened cycle after cycle after cycle. And the Ace of Fire is this new big birth of like conviction and a new beginning in that. So you can see that on a societal level, and then if you can understand it that way, then you can kind of see where you're having that own personal revolution within yourself. So that's the recent past. And so we're moving into renewal right now. This is also the Judgment card in Rider Waite. So you can see kind of how it's like kind of a family being like called to this pivotal moment. They almost kind of have like not like full-blown refugee vibe to them, but something like it feels like, they've been through something, and then here is this moment of deep renewal of inner calling and understanding and a piece of the bigger puzzle. So that's kind of coming out of that fiery rebirth energy, and you can see that we're going through this kind of judgment process on a societal level too, where we're reviewing, and like it says right here, review and evaluate, and have a favorable assessment of the facts, and it's time to move in a new direction. So, like I said, once again, the protesting and the revolution energy that's around right now is kind of a reflection of that, and we are looking back at our old systems and reviewing them and reevaluating them from this basis of this new inner calling, and that, on a personal level, once again, is applying to where we've kind of had that awakening within ourselves, and then we can go back and kind of look at and have a fair assessment of the past cycle up until now, because the Wheel of Fortune is here for not only, it's kind of like what comes out of this renewal is going to be a reflection of your choices. There's also seeing this come up in a lot of places. We are starting new karmic cycles, so like we've wrapped up a lot of lessons. Like I said, we've been finally getting through the Ten of Swords. We really are like wrapping up a certain point in the harder lessons that we have been through. So there's this renewal opportunity where there's this inner truth within us that is getting louder. If we choose to jump on a new karmic wheel, a new pattern, a new movement forward, then there is no longer a need to repeat the pattern over and over and over again, where you kind of self-abandon and self-betray an inner truth in order to whatever reason that you are doing it. That's okay if you have to go back into that. They exist on cycles and wheels for a reason, because every time we go, we kind of approach it differently. We get a deeper piece of why we had that cycle in our lives, and it's absolutely okay if we need to do that again. The pressure of making the choice can be really hard, and so it's not like one way is good and one way is bad. It just means that maybe more of this lifetime is dedicated to a certain lesson that you didn't catch on to last time, and you might have a couple more rounds. But I think for a lot of people, this is an invitation to jump on the new wheel, because there's just this overcoming of the Ten of Swords and this rebirth. So here is the time to like jump on board with the new thing and really like kind of assess where you're what you're going to create from this moment forward. And moving out of that, the upcoming energy, which I would say in like the next couple of weeks or so, or what we're kind of prepping to move into, if we're like going to strategize this awareness of these energies to best meet what's coming up next. So there might be it might have this element of the Eight of Air. So it's this is being trapped by our thoughts and difficulties from not having confidence to like really be in charge of our own lives. So even though there might be a presence of that, the train is so loud. Even though there is, I guess what's kind of saying is like, if I'm looking at it from the Black Lives Matter thing, there's this rebirth, this inspiration to go back and claim these old betrayals, societal betrayals, and renew them through assessment and judgment, and choosing to do it differently this time. It seems like we're in the process of doing that. That renewal is going to kind of extend way beyond, obviously, just this week. It's a very big movement, but something we might start feeling like really caught up in some kind of illusions or some kinds of anxieties, or feeling helpless in the world. I think it's really possible to be ending up feeling that way, because there's just going to continue to be the veil lifting. There's going to continue to be new, difficult, painful things to acknowledge that our society has been up to, and that our leaders have been up to, and seeing the heart and souls of our neighbors or people we believed in, like having opinions we disagree with. Like this is an environment we just have to get used to, where unless we really are actively self-empowering ourselves and taking control of our thought patterns and what's going on within our minds, and our ability to create the worlds we want, if we are not consciously practicing that and tapping into that, then we're going to have issues feeling bound by these fears, and getting kind of paralyzed in these states of helplessness, because we're in like the freeze trauma response, So, but the good thing is that the Magician card's coming in. So the Magician here, like, he's balanced, and he's ready to create. He has the power to create. He knows what he wants to bring into his reality, and he has empowered himself beyond the Eight of Air issue of the illusions and being stuck in his own anxieties. So moving through this renewal that we're mostly going to be focusing on right now, just know that it's coming up to this point where we're trying to confront the uncertainty of life and the fears and anxieties associated with it by bringing in a power that we have gone within in the past to start harnessing and manifesting, and to know that we are the creators of our realities and we have choices and we are not in that helplessness. So that's kind of where we're moving to. So the work and the offerings that are going to be here for this renewal cycle and the jumping on this new karmic wheel. And obviously the future card can always be adjusted the more these cards really, the other cards play in. But yeah, this is the main work. That's just kind of like where we're gravitating. So I asked, like, what is available to us at this time? What is this for the new cycle, and the reassessment of where we've been and all that and that kind of stuff, and jumping on a more favorable cycle. What is here for us in that? So in the past, we may have been at a stalemate, or we might have been honestly, I've started seeing this card is because of the Ten of Swords, because of the heavy energy that we have been through in the past, and the fear of our own self-abandonment and the abandonment of others and the betrayal of ourselves and others. See how he is blocking himself off from the heart, how most of this card has this dark kind of heavy purple, but like here around the heart is there, it's lighter. So it really feels like out of some ego, self-defense, not being kind of a stalemate of making a choice or going closer to this goodness, because something in the past has taught us that sorry, I got distracted, that it can be painful to let too much good stuff into our lives, because behind this card is just this investment and continued work and building of our material world and our dreams and manifesting our treasures in life. And so that's available. There's a cycle, there's a pattern of all of that building into like our own empowerment and ability to create and renew our lives. So that is available, and it's just this kind of painful sword ego block, trying to, that like when it really just comes down to, are we going to let in the new cycle? Are we going to refuse the new cycle, refuse the goodness, and kind of go back into these patterns of self-betrayal and self-abandonment and trying to live up to other people's expectations, or doing what we think we need to do at the betrayal of ourselves, or continuing to manifest our worst fears because we have been hurt in the past, and so we cannot fully dissociate with the like hypervigilance of that pain. So the offering here it's saying is that to be aware of the Two of Swords energy you have towards resisting goodness in your life, because a part of you finds change, and even positive change, painful. And making a choice, you have the choice here of if you're going to let in a lighter new cycle or not, or if you're going to like resist it and fall into lower timelines for yourself. Because you have been like some of this renewal, some of this passion and calling back into yourself, and the judgment of what has, like, remember how it said down here, a favorable assessment of the facts, reviewing and evaluating. So much of that, once you can get past your swords in the back, the betrayal, the difficulties and the traumas of the past, what you're going to see is that you have actually been investing in yourself and your world in many ways beyond what you were aware of, because you just have not been giving yourself enough credit. And so it's like choosing to let that in, choosing to say you deserve the goodness to which you have been a part of and to which you've been gifted, and moving into this star energy. I was just listening to a thing that said these koi in like legend, and the strongest ones swim up the river, and when they get to the top, they become dragons. And I think there's like the video is explaining that's why that happens in the Pokemon evolutions and things like that too. It's from that legend. So this is really like there's an opportunity here to have this renewal, to have this reassessment, and to really realize that what you've been doing and pushing yourself through, though it may have been imperfect, and there might have been things that you have really struggled to forgive yourself for, that you nonetheless have like climbed. You have swum your way up this river, and you have become the dragon. There's that opportunity to see that, like, here's another, you got all these pentacles in here. So it's just saying, like, you have planted the seeds. You have really worked at so many things that are now yours to enjoy if you will allow yourself to have them and acknowledge that you have done the work and you have journeyed to this good place. And so you're allowed to let that in. And so doing so, is gonna, like I said, is gonna keep shifting into this Ten of Pentacles. Like, you are with the dragon and his treasure. You've reached that deep fulfillment of something that you really like wanted, or things you've been wanting for yourself. And it's about tapping into the power of realizing you can create that. You have the ability to build worlds. and you empower that. And that offering is here through the allowance of good things in your life and the acceptance of your ability to do this in the past, so you can have trust in your ability to do it in the future. No matter how trapped you may feel by illusions, you're the magician. These two right here are powerful masculine creative energies. They're going out into the world and implementing and they're implementing your willpower. There is a little bit, like, then I asked about the resistance. So speaking of the willpower, some of the resistance work here too is making sure that your actions are aligned with the highest of intentions, that you're moving forward with passion that is in alignment with purpose and what your deepest calling and what is the truth, the work you're here for, not getting caught up in creating things that are the reflection of other people's expectations of you. Or what you think the old systems want you to do, or what you should be doing, really aligning with the truth of your work and being a student of that and thinking about it very logically and kind of learning how to think, learning to perceive it differently and really align your thoughts with the divine work and the divine purpose and your passion that's recently been rebirthed up out here in the Ace of Fire. The new call back home to the getting past the Ten of Swords. So it is saying, look at everything you've created, look at your ability to build and structure your life and to take control of your life again. But remember why you're doing it and align it with your highest, the highest goodness and the highest reasoning. And watch your thought patterns and see where you might have resistance to your own truth for whatever reason, and work with that. And it's the advice around that really is just get dreamy and sensual. There's a lot of divine, up here had a theme of divine sensuality too, and this freedom. So the more you can get into this kind of passionate, dreamy, sensual student of emotional fulfillment energy, instead of trying to push too much, that's going to help you align your truth and your actions a lot better. Let's see. So over here again, like I said, was this kind of keeping out the goodness because of the past and having to make a conscious choice about if you're going to allow that in or not, or if what new karmic cycle of lessons are you going to attract? Are you going to go deeper into the old ones? Are you ready for something new? Can you let this goodness into your life? So with some of the blocking around that is still resistance to moving away from what you thought once brought you fulfillment that wasn't actually serving your highest good, or it's just done. Just acknowledging that there's things that need to be walked away from, they're just done, and that you can, some of those things, even though it seems like you're walking away from them, it could just be about giving them the space and allowing it to change, so then you can have a new emotional relationship with them. But some of the resistance is really having to walk away from the old pattern so you can birth something new. And it also wants you, so you can help yourself with that by releasing some of these burdens that you were carrying for other people. This card up here is speaking about sacrifice, how when you sacrifice something intentionally and you give it up for whatever your highest, whatever you're going to follow instead, then it's an offering. But if you don't think about your sacrifices, then it's just a weight. So down here, this card's about who are you holding up? What are you holding up for others? Where are you being burdened with responsibility? And acknowledging if you're choosing it or not. And if you are choosing it, then choosing to make it noble. But it's also saying, I think, to move away from the thing too much, caring too much, to walk away from the old patterns and allow emotional rebirth and to lighten some of this load. And that'll help let in some of these good things too, because you're breaking up with the pattern of betraying yourself for others and for caring too much, because there's more here for you than that cycle. And there's resistance too, because there's inner child work to be done. You have to really allow optimism and joy and childlike perception and wonder into your life to really be in the garden of these good things you've planted. And we just it could be because of the Ten of Swords, it could be because we have the pain in the past that's keeping us trying to protect ourselves by keeping out good things. So it's saying that inner child work and being enlightened to where you might have resistance to hope and optimism, because ultimately you need this energy to step into the Star card, this rebirth. that's going to like really put you in the garden of all your desires. So and here down it's saying once again, remember that you can be the master of your own realm, that you can come at things with a very masculine, strategic, earthly perspective of building and holding your own personal empire kind of thing, that you are the creator of that. And it's just the third reminder that you can bring in that empowerment. So basically, yeah, we just kind of had a rebirth. We're getting rid of some old betrayal, self-betrayal. There's a new cycle here that's available to us where we're like really reassessing and getting ready to jump on that or go in the other direction. We're going to move into a point in time where it continues to be deeply significant that we understand that we are the co-creators of our own realities, and that if we can empower ourselves through realizing everything we have built so far and breaking ties with the patterns that keep us from letting good things into our lives because we fear the change even when it's positive, then there's a lot available to us in this, and there's a new wheel for everybody to jump on. So just watch where you're carrying too much burden for others, and if you're choosing to do it, make sure it's a conscious sacrifice, and be the master of your own realm by letting in this optimism and the new beginning, and doing the inner child work, and getting dreamy, and kind of making sure you're aligning your life with divine purpose in every moment you can, and working on your intentions around that. And honestly, while you're doing all that, tap into some freedom and divine sensuality. Even though there's a lot of masculine energy in this now, like we really were sitting in receptive energy, like to get all that rest and perspective and to go within. Like that was really important in the last couple of cycles. But we did that. We shifted our being from the inside. And then Gemini season hit, and we started moving into the external, and these internal reflections of ourselves then started manifesting in our outward realities. And then we started clashing forces with the old things that no longer fit, which you could really see of how we all kind of like went into our houses, shifted our consciousness, and came out to be like to create the world's largest civil rights movement in history, correct? So like it's that now it's being expressed out into the outside reality, and there is a lot of masculine doing work has returned. Like going out and being a doer is kind of here more than it had been before, but we are still getting to really revel in the balancing of the feminine and masculine. So like remembering to make a lot of space for our like adventurous freedom and sensuality and our intuitive work around this time as well. That is, once it's balanced, that's all part of being the emperor of your own reality and being the magician, is knowing when to go within and find the wisdom, and knowing to create outside reflections of that internal work that you've been doing. So you can create your own new cycle by answering this call for renewal and reassessment, and surrender to that, and really finally letting some of these heavy energies go. You guys, we're finally, if you've been watching these for a long time, you know we've been having hard sword energies. So really this is all about really letting yourself get over whatever reason you won't let yourself have good things in your life, by acknowledging that you already have been working towards good things in your life, and that there's time for a new cycle. It doesn't have to manifest in the same way again. So you could just allow your happiness to come through and use that to really push these movements externally and internally forward with the endurance that they're going to require. But we can do that in a really empowered way. So that's a lot. But it feels good. It feels good. So these are going to be for about the next 2 weeks, I think. I might pop up more in the middle. I want to just see how it changes. But yeah, Sagittarius full moon is a lot about freedom, expression, passion, and alignment with truth. So that's really nice. And I'm really seeing that in this. And let your lives glow. Let yourself have the new star beginning, because we've all been through some shit the last couple of months, and I promise you deserve it. That's the whole point. Everybody does.